Hi and welcome to the Dare to Be Healthy show. This is your host Alia Almoayed, broadcasting from the tiny little island of Bahrain in the Middle East. I'm a nutritional therapist, health writer and health speaker, and I'm here to help you take your health to the next level. Today's episode is called De-Stress, Create. You know, every one of us seems to be stressed about something or other, whether it's the economic conditions, political instability, an illness of a loved one, your own weight, dry skin, you name it, we're stressed about it. But can you believe there is actually a solution? And the solution is in changing our own beliefs and our own reactions to the situations that we're put in. You know, we've all seen the movie The Secret, and we know that what we think about, we attract. But how do we bring the law of attraction to our day-to-day lives? And how do we let it help us improve our lives? And how do we change our stubborn mind and make it believe that the change in beliefs will actually change our lives? So with me today to answer all these questions is Chris Lee. Chris Lee is a certified law of attraction facilitator, and I'm very excited because I have all kinds of questions for Chris. Chris, I'm very excited to have you with me on the show today. I have so many questions, and I feel almost that maybe I attracted you into this show today because I've been getting so many questions these days about people feeling down because of the economic instability, or whether it's political crisis and potential wars happening, especially in this region. And it seems that overall morale is just completely down. So how do we, I mean, most people have seen the movie The Secret, and we know about the law of attraction, but it's very difficult to actually bring it into our day-to-day lives. But I'm very curious, how do you help people do that?
Absolutely. Well, I'll give you a definition of what the law of attraction is. The law of attraction, simply put, is I attract to myself, my life, and my business whatever I give my attention, energy, and focus to, whether negative or positive. So the way that the law of attraction works is it's all about vibes. You know, everything has a frequency or a vibration attached to it, and a vibration is a mood or a feeling. So the way that we attract things into our lives really depends upon our mood or our feeling. Mm-hmm. So if we're feeling positive, we'll attract positive things. If we're feeling negative, we'll attract negative things.
But how do we, I mean, let's say now in general, for example, I'll give you an example. Myself, I am a very positive person, and I try to be very positive so that at least it also rubs off on my family and my kids. But how do you do that when there's so many negative things happening around you? I mean, all you have to do is just run into the newspaper by mistake, even if you didn't want to read it. You just, you know, just see the headlines everywhere, or skim the TV channels. There's just so much, especially these days, you know, there's just about something going on in every part of the world, whether it's climate or, you know, economic crisis or wars, whatever it is. How do you seal yourself off from all of this?
Mm-hmm. That's a very, very good question, and a very realistic question as well. So as we mentioned, it's all about vibes, or our mood, or the feeling that we have. And what dictates our mood or the feelings that we have are the words that we use and the things that we think about, the things that we focus on the most. So one of the things that I help people with, sometimes I work with clients who, like yourself, are concerned about different things going on in the world, different things going on in the workplace, or even different things in their relationships at home. So what I help them to do is kind of reframe their day-to-day experience. So the things that we have control over pretty much stop with ourselves and our vibe, you know, kind of what we're putting out. So part of it is maintaining a high vibration for yourself, and then part of it is kind of limiting, when it comes to the news and things like that, kind of limiting what you do, what you see, what you read, what you take in. Now, that's not to say that those things are not going to exist. They are going to be there. Yeah. But by reframing your day-to-day experience and focusing on the positive things and looking at the positive things, because what happens, the way that our brains work, we need evidence of what's going on. So if we're feeling negative, we're thinking negative things, our subconscious mind is automatically going to, whatever we believe, our subconscious mind is going to try to prove us right. So if we're focusing on negative things, the subconscious mind will find more negative things to help prove that you're right about the negative things that you see. So what I do is help people to reframe their day-to-day experience so that they're looking for positive things. You know, for instance, one of the things that I do is most people want to attract better relationships or a relationship and money or abundance. So what I have people do is create a log of the abundance that they have already in their lives, because usually if I were to ask someone, they say, oh, I don't have that much good stuff going for me. But when you keep track of it and write it down, what you find out is that you actually do have lots of good things going for you. So it's just a matter of shifting the focus from your day-to-day experience from what you don't want to what you want.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. Let's say you have a log of the things that you're very grateful for, including money maybe. And you start writing all the little income that you get and everything that you have. And you start realizing that you have quite a lot. How do you stop yourself from not acquiring any more abundance because you are all of a sudden content with what you have?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So what happens, there's a game that I play that I got from a Jerry and Esther Hicks book. It's called the Prosperity Game. And in the Prosperity Game, you have $1,000 a day to spend, and it increases by $1,000 every day. So the first day you spend $1,000, the second day $2,000, the next day $3,000, and so on and so forth. After a month, you're trying to spend $30,000 or $40,000 a day. And what happens inevitably with everyone that plays the game is you start out making a list of the things that you pay for, and it would be to get caught up on bills, to pay off loans, and then once you got past that part, you start to buy fancy cars and the nice house that you want, and then the tipping point happens. This is very interesting. It happens with every single person that plays, is you get to a point where you have enough in the game, and then you get to the things that are really important to you. So people begin to write down things like start a charity for underprivileged children, or create a shelter for the homeless and things like that. So anyone that is fortunate enough to have enough abundance to be content, those are the things that can still continue to bring you contentment with the prosperity that you have, is finding some sort of way to help other people and to spread love around the earth.
So would you say that if you realize that you have enough and you're content with what you have and you want to kind of continue to accumulate wealth, then maybe set different goals so that it still comes to you and then you end up spending it on something else?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, okay, let's talk about relationships. I think because that's what gets people the most. Sometimes when you start moving forward, especially with the law of attraction and being positive in general, you start moving forward, but maybe your partner or your whoever you're living with might not be on the same wavelength and might not be moving at the same speed. How do you try to convince them to come along? Do you show them the movie? What do you do?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. That comes up in a lot of sessions when people start to make changes. So what happens, as humans, we're all creatures of habit. So we get used to doing the same thing over and over and over again every day. And when someone changes that, it kind of upsets the apple cart, so to speak, and it kind of throws things off. And so if you have one person that is moving forward and ascending, in their consciousness and their knowledge and being able to manifest things with law of attraction, and one person who is not, it creates a tough situation because those two people are no longer a match. So what happens is, as we mentioned before, it's all about vibrations. So two things can happen. The two may grow apart, or what is good is the person that's vibrating at a higher level, they can get to a point where it won't matter as much. The relationship will still be able to carry on, but it won't matter as much. But there's only two vibes that you can offer, a negative vibe and a positive vibe, and you can't offer them both at the same time. You can only offer one at a time. So by focusing on positive things and even just focusing on the positive things that are in the relationship, it can kind of hold things together, and you'll be able to find a happy medium there.
Well, okay. Well, let's if we were to talk about your relationship with yourself, because we see a lot of people sometimes, I mean, it's very easy to blame someone else and to say, no, my partner is not on the same wavelength, or the economic conditions are not convenient for me at this time. But I think most of the damage and the obstacles come from within, don't they? Because I see that a lot when I work with people who are trying to lose weight. You realize that even if you facilitate everything, and even if everything is ready for them, sometimes we tend to create our own obstacles, and sometimes people are even aware that they're creating their own obstacles. They just don't know what to do about that.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And that's often an aspect of the law of attraction that is overlooked by a lot of people that teach the law of attraction. So you can get to a place where your vibe is high and you're attracting things, but if there's other things attached to it, like baggage, for instance, then you will still begin to attract the things that you don't want. So one of the things that I do is we do what's called an energy clearing or an emotional clearing, because most of us pick up things from our childhood, or from, it can be the smallest thing. It could be something that someone said to you when you were a kid, that you were too fat or too skinny or whatever. And those things stick with you, and that becomes a part of your belief system. So the important part of getting a person to a good place where they can begin to attract the things that they want is to help them with their personal beliefs and with their limiting beliefs, especially like with weight loss. I know myself, I was able to lose quite a bit of weight. I used to weigh 320 pounds. The weight started to come off when I believed that I could do it, first and foremost, and that I deserved to be healthy and to have the body that I want. So there's a lot of sometimes baggage that we attach to it, but what it all usually comes down to is feeling like we don't deserve something, or feeling that we're unworthy. And once those emotions can be cleared away, then the way is open, because the sky's the limit. We all can do whatever we believe that we can do. It's a matter of believing and trusting in ourselves enough to go for it.
Well, okay, what if I were to ask you, let's say we have, part of us does believe that we can and part of us doesn't. Is there usually, does it depend on the ratio of how much of us, I mean, if it's 80-20, then okay, then the 80% will win? Or is a positive thought always more powerful than a negative thought, regardless of the ratio?
What you said is correct, actually. It can slow down. So it was like, if your belief level is at a 10 and your doubt level is at an 8, then your total progress is a 2. And, as long as you're moving in the right direction, that's good. But what you want to try to do is get your belief level as high as possible and your level of doubt as low as possible. And one of the ways to do that is to, as I mentioned before, our brains need evidence. So sometimes we have to look outside of ourselves for the evidence. So for myself, I wasn't quite sure if I could lose the weight that I needed to lose. So I started looking outside of myself. I started finding celebrities that had lost weight, or people that I knew personally that had lost weight. And there's really no difference between me and them. If they can do it, I can do it. So that was kind of like my motivating force to continue to keep going and to add some belief. You may have to move outside of yourself, but if you can find somebody that's done it before, then for sure, they're a human just like you. You can do it too.
What about, have you worked with anybody with, you always hear about stories of a small group changing a much bigger mass, for example, or changing a whole country. It always originates with a very small group that is kind of the mastermind of everything. And today, in this region, at least in the Middle East, we're going through a lot of political crisis. There's talk of war and all kinds of potential things that are not very positive. But deep down, I feel that if enough people start the cumulative positive thoughts of even a small number of people could overcome something like that, or could at least balance it out. Would you say that that is possible?
That is absolutely possible and absolutely true. A lot of what happens in the world today is guided by the mass consciousness of the people that are in an area. So if everyone in the Middle East is thinking that they would like for things to change, or they would like for things to be different, then the law of attraction will bring that about for them. So what happens is, in the beginning, it might look like something that is not positive at all. It might look like something that's negative, but the end result will be what the people actually want. You take Haiti, for instance, they had an earthquake, and that was a very terrible event to have happen in Haiti, but now the country is being rebuilt, and it'll be a nicer country than it would have been had it not been for the earthquake. And I think that that's what is going on in the Middle East right now, is people want change and people want freedom. And so the mass consciousness is focused on that, and the universe always finds a way to bring it about, whatever it is. We're very, very powerful creators. So the things that we think with our mind become our reality, and that's what's happening. So it may go through a period of upheaval, of war, but the end result, because of the mass consciousness, usually ends up being what the people actually want.
Well, that's a nice way of looking at it. Do you have any, I know you work with affirmations as well, I assume you do. What kind of affirmations examples of affirmations can we give maybe to the people watching this, of things that they could say, maybe from a general perspective, or maybe also about life in general, or political instability, or maybe married life? What nice affirmations can you give us?
Good. A little bit about affirmations. In order for an affirmation to be effective, it has to be something that we believe personally. So one of the things that I do, like when I would say my affirmations, I had learned incorrectly that you have to write the affirmation as if it's already happened. So I wanted to weigh 225 pounds. So I would stand in front of the mirror every day and read an affirmation and said, I have a 225-pound body. But in the back of my mind, there was a little voice that says, no, you don't. You still
No
weigh
way.
Yeah, exactly. So to make an affirmation feel good and to make it true, I add this phrase to the beginning of it. I am in the process of attracting blah, blah, blah. That's almost more important than what the actual affirmation is. I am in the process of attracting. So if you were thinking that you wanted to have a more peaceable environment, you would say, I am in the process of attracting an environment that is peaceable, where I can relax and where my family and I can enjoy family life. Or for relationships, I am in the process of attracting a healthy, loving, fulfilling relationship. Or if it's money that you want, I am in the process of attracting unlimited abundance. Or I am in the process of attracting. So what happens when we give an affirmation and it's extremely specific, that kind of narrows it down, and the universe, that's a tall order for the universe to fill. For instance, if you said, I want to attract $15,000 by way of construction or something like that. If you just hold the thought in your mind and let the universe figure out how to bring it to you, the most important thing that you can do with any affirmation is to figure out why you want it. For instance, a lot of people say that they want money. Okay, why do you want money? Okay, I want money so that I can enjoy life more. So then the affirmation, instead of being I want money, would be I would like to attract enough abundance so that I can enjoy life more.
Okay. So if you were to say, for example, I want to be a size X or Y, then that's not really what you want, because you might get there and be very unhealthy, for example, or very unhappy in the process. So you should aim for saying, I'm in the process of attracting a healthy body, or a body that I'm happy in. Would that be accurate?
That is exactly dead on. Very good. Yes.
Okay. So you can't be because sometimes people say, for example, I want to attract a generous husband, for example. But a generous husband might not be what's best for you at that point. Is that correct? So you should focus back on what you want from the feeling of being married, correct?
Exactly. You got it. You're natural at this stuff. You got it.
I try. And I think a lot of people, and I fall into that trap myself as well. You start wishing for things as if it's a wish list. And then you don't realize that maybe something on your wish list, you might still have it and be miserable, and the end goal is always happiness. So should you just wish for happiness then? Because you do want to be a bit specific, don't you?
That's a very good place to start. And so, like for myself, one of the things that I always like to work on is fulfilling work. So I leave that a little bit vague because it has taken on different faces. So at first I used to want specific things, like I wanted fulfilling work when I saw people one-on-one in my office. But when I expanded it and just left it at I want fulfilling work, I got fulfilling work from seeing people in the community, from group sessions, from one-on-one sessions, from Skype sessions, from talking to the guy behind me in line at the grocery store. And it creates a really nice vibe for me. And so by taking out that one specific piece that it can only come, because what you're doing is you're limiting your mind, it's a limiting belief kind of, because you're saying to the universe, I was saying I could only get fulfillment from seeing people one-on-one in my office, but actually there's 7 or 8 different ways that I could get fulfillment. So by keeping the doors open to all the different possibilities, you can attract it from a lot of different ways.
Do you work with vision boards at all? Do you encourage people to have vision boards?
Yes. I love to write, so I personally prefer to write my affirmations down, and I do a lot of mental visualizing, but a vision board is a good way to keep the vision before you, because what happens is, so the way that the law of attraction works is by focus and intent. So if you have a vision board or an affirmation that you carry in your pocket, it helps your mind to focus on that. So the big thing with that, though, is you have to ask yourself, am I focusing on what I want, or am I focusing on the lack of what I want? So whatever causes you to be able to focus on it without the lack is the thing that you should use. For myself, when I first started with the law of attraction, I didn't use vision boards, because vision boards, when I would look, I would like cut out pictures, like LL Cool J. He's got nice abs and muscular guy. So I cut his picture out and I put my face on it, and but it made me think about the fact that I didn't have that body. You know, so for that, the vision board didn't work. But for the vision for my business, the vision for my brand, things like that, the vision board works absolutely great. When I wake up in the morning, when I open my medicine cabinet, there's a picture taped to the inside of the medicine cabinet of the layout of how I would like for my office to be, my future office when I get my dream office. And it really keeps me going, you know what I mean? It really helps me to stay focused on that so I don't get sidetracked.
Yeah. Well, how do you, let's say, for example, and I've heard this from several people in the past, and it's happened to me as well. You have something on your vision board for so long, and you want it so badly, and then when it happens, you realize you didn't really want it, or maybe you changed, you evolved in the process, and it took so long, you know, and by the time you got it, it just wasn't interesting to you anymore. Does that happen? Is that normal?
Yeah, that does happen sometimes. So it's best to update it as much as you need to. I do that with affirmations. Some of them I write out, and then a couple months later, my wants will change, my focus will change, and I'll rewrite them. So it's really always going to be a work in progress.
And how often do you review it? I mean, I have a small vision board, but I also have a mind map where I feel that it's good to plan out where you want to be. But how often should you be looking at that, or your own goals, or your mind map, or whatever it is that you have in place? I mean, you say you have it in your pocket, but how often should you be reading it often? Should you just write it and leave it?
Yeah, any bit of attention that you give to it is positive, and it's going to get you moving in the right direction. The more you can look at it, the better. So one of the things that I absolutely positively make sure I do every single day is I wake up in the morning and I do a meditation. And that's when I review a lot of my goals and a lot of my affirmations. So it's good. Ideally, you want to do it when you wake up in the morning and before you go to bed. And it kind of gets in your subconscious mind. So what happens with our subconscious mind, once something gets in there, the subconscious mind is looking for that thing. You know, I bought a Toyota once. It was like a rust colored Toyota. And for the next few weeks, that's all I saw on the road was rust colored Toyotas. You know, it's like I didn't realize people had that car. So that's kind of how our brains work, is when you have something in there, okay, now it's looking for that and looking for opportunities. And so really that's kind of like the magical part of the law of attraction, is you write this thing out, and all of a sudden things start coming to you, people start coming to you, you see something on TV that you didn't know, and it's all because you put that in your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is finding ways to bring it to fulfillment for you.
Well, doesn't that, I mean, everybody tells you you have to always live in the present moment and you have to be present, present, present. But if you have this constant list in your head, your vision board, where you want to be in the future, where I want what I want, it's very difficult to stay in the present, because you're just focusing on what you're in the process of getting rather than what you have at the moment.
Very good. That's a good observation. So one of the things that I do for the meditation is I read the affirmation, but then when I do the meditation, I try not to think about anything. I try to clear my mind of it. Once you've kind of put it out to the universe, you can read it to kind of focus on it, but the name of the game when it comes to law of attraction is maintaining a high vibration at any cost. So it's really about getting happy. So when you get happy, when you're in that place where you're feeling good, that's when the things that you want are coming to you or being attracted to you. So it really doesn't matter if you're focusing on a thing at that time, just the fact that you're happy. I have a granddaughter that's almost a year old, and that's been like a really good attraction point for me because she makes me very happy. So being happy is, you know, that helps you attract the things that you want, even if you're not thinking about it at the time. So my advice would be to keep the things in mind that you want, but just enjoy the ride and enjoy the unfolding of it.
Well, you know the theory that once you've put it out there to the universe, you're supposed to let it go and let the universe do its thing and let it bring it to you. But most people, or for a lot of people, for example, if it's a subject that's very close to their heart, if it has something to do with their loved ones or their kids or even financial trouble, then they want it really badly, and they're very attached to the outcome. And that sometimes maybe slows down the process, or maybe even stops you from getting it because you're very attached to it. So this detachment from the outcome is what I find the most difficult, and the most difficult to describe to people, because it's very easy to say, oh, one day I would like to travel to so-and-so, and then leave it out for the universe, because if it doesn't happen, then it's not the end of the world. But if it's something that I'm very attached to and it's so important to me, how do I detach from it?
That's a very, very good question. So what you want to focus on when you have something like that, let's say you have a relative, and that relative, let's say they needed an organ donor to be able to survive. And that would be something that you would want really, really bad. So the first thing that you would want to do is make sure that you're not focusing on the lack, focusing on the fact that they don't have the organ that they need. So the reset phrase, anytime you find yourself in the negative place when you're thinking about what you want, the reset phrase is, so what do I want? And so again, going into the positive side, what do I want? Okay, I would like for my relative to get this transplant, this organ that they need to survive. So then you want to ask, why? Why is it that you want them to do that? And the answer is obvious, right? Because you love that person, you love them in your life, and you love having them around. So that actually has to be the focus, not necessarily the issue that they're going through, but the focus is, you know, I would like to have, you know, Uncle Joe live a long, healthy life and to continue to be part of my life. Now, we can't really project onto people the things that we want to attract. So it depends on, you know, what that person wants. Sometimes if you have a sick relative and you may be praying for them to get better, and, you know, they may still pass away due to the sickness. everyone, whether we realize it or not, we're all working towards attracting the thing that we want. So if the person that's sick, the thing that they might want is to be comfortable. So for them, being comfortable may be for them to pass away. In the West, people look at death as something that's terrible, but it's just a transition into a different part of life. So for some people, even though we look at death as final and something terrible, for some people, they got what they attracted when they pass away, because now they're not suffering anymore.
It's very difficult to explain that to people or to the relatives themselves. It's always more difficult. I'm very curious, Chris, do you work with kids at all, or parents that will help their kids? I mean, it's just such a fascinating concept, and it's such a simple concept that maybe kids will understand even better than adults. And it's nice to be able to, we don't teach that in academics, they don't teach that in school, and they don't say have a vision board or put out what you want or what is it that you really want. Most kids, when you ask them what do you want, they don't even know, and it's nice to be able to say, let's find out what it is that you might want, other than an iPad or an iPhone, bigger things that they want to achieve in life.
Kids are naturally great at the law of attraction, because in a kid's mind, everything is possible. There's nothing that's impossible to a kid. They believe everything is possible. So kids naturally are very good at attracting things and very good at the law of attraction. All of us, when we're born, when we're babies, we have all that stuff is within us. But as we go through the various stages of our life and we have different experiences and different things happen to us, we begin to stop believing, and then we grow into adulthood and we don't believe. But kids are very, very good at attracting things and just having an inherent ability to understand the law of attraction.
So what would you say to, how would you, I'm a mother of 3, and I would love to encourage my kids to have that skill, not at the same, I had to learn it, I had to teach myself how to do it, but it's nice if you learn it very early, then it becomes second nature to you. Where would you start? Should you give them a vision board? Should they write down the things they want? Because it's difficult to explain to a child that you should be wishing for fulfillment and happiness. For them, that's not really a thing,
Right, yeah. The best thing that I've found with children, believe it or not, is to let them be, because they actually know, they know, they know what they want, and they want to have fun and things like that. But the one thing, as they grow older and get to school age, one thing that I find to be very important is just that one thing, that reset phrase, so what do I want? My daughter, when she was younger, maybe around 8 or 9, she'd come home and she'd tell me all the bad things that happened in school. And I'd say, well, what is it that you want to happen in school? Tell me about, or even with children, it's fun to play make-believe. And what that does is it takes them through a scenario to where they're focusing on what they want. So what I do with my daughter is I say, tell me about your perfect day at school. How does it go? And she says, I come to school in a limousine and all the kids are looking at me and we have pizza for lunch and there's no homework, and that feels good. As adults, we might say, oh, that's not realistic. But that gets you in a place where your vibration is high, your vibration is positive, you're attracting things that you want. So make-believe is a really, really good tool. If you can get adults to do it too, it's good for adults, but make-believe is a very good law of attraction tool and a very good dream-building tool. I have a friend here in the States, she's from India, and she's a doctor. And she said when they were kids, that's what they give them to play with. They give them stethoscopes and let them wear lab jackets and all the things that doctors have, computers and all different things like that. And a lot of the kids in India, when they grow up, the things that they played with are what they wanted to be, career-wise, because that's what was in their vibe. That's what was in their brain for them to kind of focus on. So there's another tool too.
Wow, that's a very, very nice example. Well, how do you take us through a typical coaching session? For example, if somebody comes to you and says, I'm miserable and I have I have financial problems and things are going down the drain and almost on the verge of divorce, where do you start with someone like that?
Good question. So here's what usually happens in a typical session. One of the first things that we'll do is we'll begin to make a list of the things that are going on that you don't like. Because even though you have to focus on what you want for the law of attraction, part of focusing on what you want is recognizing what you don't want.
Okay.
So you're observing contrast, you know, the contrast between what you don't want and what you do want. So when you have things that don't feel right, or the resistance, we make a list of those things. So for instance, if it were money things, you know, we go through in the workshops or in the one-on-one sessions, and people will say things like, we have them be very specific. I don't like when I get telephone calls from bill collectors. I don't like being afraid to check my bank account online because it might be overdrawn. I don't like living paycheck to paycheck. And we make this list of things, and it's a very powerful list when you observe these things. And so we do that. And then on the opposite side of the sheet, we take each individual thing that you mentioned that you don't like, and we ask that question once again. So what do you want? How do we flip that into something positive? So then what you have on the other side is a list of things that you do want. I would like to be able to answer my telephone regardless of knowing who's on the other end of the line. I like having enough money to do the things that I want when I want, and things like that. And so what happens is it reframes the experience and changes the focus from negative to positive. And now you're focusing on the things that you want. And then I have them keep a log over a week or so of the things about their situation or the relationship that they do like. And then what happens is usually end up with a list of things that you have to appreciate already, because it comes down to, a lot of times, you know, gratitude is something that's a high vibration, a positive word. So if you have gratitude for the things that you already have and you focus on those positive things, now your brain is looking for more positive things to bring into your life. When you're focusing on the fact that your money situation is miserable or your relationship is miserable, your subconscious mind is looking for ways to prove you right either way. So you say, oh, see, he left the cabinet door open. Oh, he got crumbs in the bed. He did this, he did that. But when you write down the things that you want, you're looking and finding those things even in the very same person that you couldn't stand before you had the session. Now you're finding things that you like, and then you can build upon that, you know, or make a decision to attract a different person into your life.
Yeah. How many sessions does it usually take to convert people for them to be able to do it on their own without you?
That's a very good question, and it depends on the person. Some people can do it in one session. Some people can do it in 4 or 5 sessions. On average, I would say after about 3 sessions, you'll be in a place to where you can start attracting the things that you want, because it's all about awareness and helping people to raise the awareness, first of all, that they're in control of what happens to them in their lives, for the most part, and then raising their awareness to where they're looking for things that they like or looking for things that they appreciate. And so it usually gets them on the right track.
I'm curious, I saw on your website, it says that you combine the law of attraction concepts with energy medicine or energy healing. I can't remember what it said exactly. How do you do that?
So energy medicine is dealing with what's called the subtle body. All of us are made up of a spirit, a mind, and a body. So in order to attract healthy emotions, we have to address all 3 parts of the individual. But usually the spirit and the mind don't get addressed. It's just everything that we're focused on, especially here in the West, focuses on the body. So the subtle body has to do with the chakra system and the auras and things like that. So there's meridians in the body, acupuncture meridians. That's how energy flows, you know, up and down your body. When that energy flow stops, then that is where sickness can come about. You know, it starts out as something energetic and it manifests into some type of a physical illness. So based on some things with traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, different organs in the body have a consciousness associated with them. So, for instance, the liver, the consciousness of the liver is that's where anger resides. So sometimes if people have anger issues, there's energy that needs to be cleared from their liver. Grief resides in the lungs. So if a person is grieving about a loss or about a personal situation, then there's energy in the lungs that need to be cleared. So what happens is in the session, I'll go through by applied kinesiology or muscle testing and check the various organs and endocrines and body parts and find out where there is an energy blockage or where there's a communication link that needs to be established within the body to get the person balanced. Because the whole name of the game, even with the work that you do, is to bring the body into balance so that it can heal itself. Because that's how the Creator designed it, was for our bodies to heal itself. So that's the focus of the energy medicine, is to get our bodies into a place where it can balance and heal itself. And now you're attracting, so when we do that and we go into the law of attraction portion of it, now you're attracting the experience that you want from a better place. So instead of, let's say if you have binoculars and you're trying to find what you want with your binoculars, if you have those energy blockages, it's like having a building in your way. Right? Yeah. When all you needed to do to change your perspective was walk 6 feet to the corner, and now you can see clearly what it is that you want, and you know that you can have it by having the energy cleared and your body brought into balance. So by combining the two, it's been a very, very powerful connection of two different types of modalities to help people move their lives forward.
Wow, Chris, that sounds fascinating, and I think I hope that our listeners or our viewers have gotten a few nuggets of wisdom, because I think you gave us a lot of things to think about there. But how can people contact you or get more information about you?
Absolutely. My website is www.chrisleelifestyle.com. There's a forum page on the website, Connect with Chris, and I'd be more than happy to do sessions over Skype or over the telephone, or if you're in the metropolitan Detroit area, in person. You can also connect with me on Twitter at LifePathLLC, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Chris Lee Lifestyle. I love meeting new people and connecting with new people, so I hope to hear from you.
Yeah, and this is how we met, actually, on Twitter. I mean, it's just such a small world. You're in Michigan, and I'm in Bahrain in the Middle East. It's fascinating how these things have become much easier today.
It's a law of attraction.
It is. Well, Chris, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I hope that people appreciate this as much as I do. I'm very grateful, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Thanks. And to our viewers and listeners, thank you for tuning in. That's it from me. This is your host, Alia Almoayed, signing off from Bahrain.